Hello, we are students at Swallow School. My name is Zoe and I'm in the 5th grade.
My name is Andrew and I'm in the 6th grade, the 173rd graduating class of Swallow School.
Is that really true? Did they really have graduations even in those early years? My name is Noah, by the way, and I am in 4th grade.
We don't know a lot about those early years, but we do know that a group of men from the Warren Township, which is what the town of Merton used to be called, met on October 15, 1842, and decided to construct a log building which would be the school. Swallow School opened on January 1st, 1844.
1844? I wonder if my grandpa went to school then. Sorry, Grandpa. My name is Sydney and I am in 6th grade.
My name is Avery, and I'm in the 3rd grade. So what was school like way back when? I wish I could see their playground.
Playground? I don't think they had a playground. My name is Bella and I'm in the 6th grade. What was school like way back in 1844?
Well, first of all, Swallow School was not called Swallow School. It was called Corner School because it was on a corner!
And in addition to families paying taxes towards the operation of the school, like they do today, each student's family had to give half a cord of wood, or $1. They started with about 30 kids eligible to go to school, but not everyone enrolled.
$1? That's all? Well, I suppose $1 was a lot of money in those days. And since they sometimes had 60 kids in the one-room school, they would have a budget of $60 for the entire year.
I heard that by 1849, there were so many students coming, each student's family had to only pay a 4th cord of wood, or 75 cents.
And I heard that the school burned down 2 times in the first 50 years. Those buildings were across what is now County Road E on the Filter Farm.
Yes, it did. And then in 1894, a new one-room school was built. Because the school was across the street from a Swallow family house, and because Henry Swallow worked so hard to make the school a good school, the name was changed to Swallow School.
The part of the school that has the 1890s room and the bell tower was built more than 100 years ago, and there was only one room? One room, and that went on for the next 50 years. Listen to Mr. Radaman tell about when he was in school in the 1940s.
Hi, I'm Bill Radaman, a former teacher at Swallow School. I attended here and started as first grader in 1943. I've lived in this area all of my life. In fact, my dad attended Swallow School. He was born in 1902, so he would have been about 1910. But at that time, the farm boys didn't go to school very long, so at 3rd grade he dropped out, and he went home back on the farm. Because we had the same teacher that taught my father, Sarah Bell Van Buren. She was brought back in 1942 or 43 because of shortage of teachers at this time.
And Mr. Vilter was here in the 1940s and 50s. Listen to him tell about it.
That's where I went to grade school many years ago. It's the old brick corner that has the bell tower on it. There was a curtain that went down the middle of the room, and that separated the 4th from the 5th grade. And there was one teacher, there was 48 children in the school. And the teacher would go from side to side. There was just the one lady, she handled the whole school.
Only one room with a curtain between the high grades and the low grades. Where did the students go to the bathroom? They had outhouses until 1946 when Morton Spence donated money to build indoor bathrooms.
Ew, that sounds pretty gross. So if I was in the 7th grade, I'd be in school with the 8th graders and the 1st graders?
That's right. It must have been hard for one teacher to manage all 9 grades. How many students in the whole school?
48 students is what Mr. Vilter said.
48 students in that 1890s room? What did they do all day in that small room?
Used pencil and paper. As we got older, we graduated to using pens. But in the earlier grades, it was just pencil and paper. And the paper was furnished by the school. And we had class books for reading, arithmetic, and social studies, and some science, but that science really didn't come until the later grades. As we got older, the teacher would send some of us downstairs to put wood in, and then they replaced that furnace with an incinerator. And I still remember one of our chores was to burn the plastic coated or wax coated milk cartons, and they would give off a very hot fire. And then we would throw in the wastebasket from the day's worth of school.
My goodness, did they ever have any fun? Or do they have to work all the time? Listen to Mr. Vilter, he has a great story to tell.
Baseball consisted of softball, and we would keep our own statistics, batting averages, errors, and all that stuff. Each one of us would have a piece of paper, and we'd figure that out every day. And when I was in the 7th or 8th grade, we had a teacher that loved to play baseball, so if it was really nice weather outside, why, we played ball longer, and that counted towards part of the math lesson when we figured our averages out.
Wow, they got to play baseball and keep their statistics, and that counted for math? That sounds like fun.
And they even had a home run contest once.
Awesome.
Wow.
My name is Jim Liebert, and I'm a graduate of Swallow School. It was some years ago, like 55, and I have very fond memories of Swallow School and fond memories of the teacher. I had one teacher, and I had 7 classmates in my grade. At one time, we would keep track of how many home runs we would have, and I'll never forget that I played on the softball team, and we played all these other feeder schools that eventually go into Arrowhead. And I had to have a home run derby, in effect, hit off with my senior class, not my classmate. His name was Jerry Zoichis, and Jerry and I were pitched softballs to by Clark Vilter, who was our pitcher, and it was just the two of us, and our chance was we had 10 swings at the ball to see how many home runs each of us would hit. Jerry was a year older than I was, and sure enough, he won. He hit more home runs over the 100-foot fence than I did.
We should have a home run derby this spring. What other games did they play?
They had I thought it was really neat. It was, I think they called it a maypole. It was a single pipe that went up, and it had a circle on top with chains coming down to handles, and we would grab those and run around in this circle, and if you ran fast enough, you'd leave the ground. And so our aim when we got high enough was to see if we could knock somebody off their feet that was not prepared to be hitting. I don't think that would pass on a playground nowadays. They had a swing set that is comparable to what you have now, but what we had was a little bit bigger, and the bigger kids would push us little kids to see if they could get us to swing over the top pipe. And once in a while that happened. And then we would also see who could jump the farthest.
I hope the kids held on tight. So when did they add on to the school?
They added to the school building many times since the 1950s, and now we nearly have 600 students, a lot more than we did 50 to 60 years ago.
And I can't even imagine all the kids who have gone here and all the things that have happened to them. Listen to Mr. Radaman and Mr. Liebert.
In the summertime, also something interesting, my brother and I, to make money, we would dig angleworms. And we had certain customers that would come out every weekend from Milwaukee and buy, I think we sold 3 dozen of worms for a quarter. And this was very interesting. Some of these people would buy $1 worth. And so my brother and I, saving all our money, we bought our first bicycle from selling angleworms.
$1 for 3 dozen angleworms? But they bought a bicycle. That's pretty cool.
We never did anything really naughty. Although I have to tell you one time that we did do this. After school one day, there was a young man that was younger than I was. His name was Mackie Dorn. Mackie Dorn ended up being the president of First Bank in Oconomowoc. And Mackie and I decided that we were going to go on a canoe trip down the river. It's not really a river, it's a stream that flows between Beaver Lake and Pine Lake. And of course, we dragged our canoe halfway through there, and sure enough, it got dark real quick, which of course we never thought about that. But we got lost. Oh, we actually got lost. We had no idea where we were. We didn't think about how are we going to get this canoe back to Beaver Lake, at least to the outlet there. And the police were looking for us. We couldn't figure out, well, why are they, what are these sirens all about? So fortunately, everything worked out fine. Our parents hugged us and loved us and said, don't do that again.
Today, there will probably be an Amber Alert, helicopters, and the FBI. Wow! We also have some other stories from people we haven't met yet.
Hi, my name is Bobbin Beam Krager. I was also known as Roberta Beam when I went to school at Swallow from 1958 to 62, the 1st through 4th grade. One time, this is back in early 60s, we had to have a civil defense drill. And it was kind of a scary time with the arms race and all of that stuff going on, and we had a special event here at Swallow School where we all had to walk home from school, and our parents had to time how long it took us from the moment we left school to the time we got home in case the big bomb came on and the fallout and all of that stuff. I mean, it was a scary time in general, but to have to do that, my parents had to time exactly how long it took each one of us to walk home.
Were they that afraid of bombs and possible war back then? My goodness. But by 1958, they had 6 rooms instead of 1. That's good.
For me, a big thing that I remember, I loved and lived for recess. Absolutely loved recess. And we had some real interesting playground equipment. There's the monkey bars, and my claim to fame was I fell off and broke my wrist. But we had such great times, and there was the merry-go-round and a couple of really intense swing sets. There was a low version for the little kids, and then the high versions. And man, you could really get those things going high. They were great. And we had a sandbox. And it was fun. We used to bring our little plastic horses that were made at Heartland Plastics and go play horses in the sandbox. I don't know if you did that too, but a lot of great memories.
Hello, my name is Terrell Tynefield. I was a student here from 1st grade through 8th grade in the 70s. Mrs. Becker and I can't remember her assistant.
Mrs. Sickles.
Mrs. Sickles. They would definitely look at your tray, especially if you wanted seconds for any of the desserts or apple crisp, which was very popular. She would make sure you ate everything else on your plate to get seconds for dessert. Well, I have a good, kind of a funny family memory. One day we were in class, and I don't remember how we were told, but the principal gathered myself, my sister, my 2 brothers, and said that our neighbor friend was coming to pick us up along with her children because my mother had called and our gerbils got loose in the house. And so we all were gonna have to go home early to catch the animals. My mom could get off the counter. All my brothers had like 10 gerbils.
Oh my.
in those old, in the, the ones with the big houses and all the tubes. Oh, we got them. We got them. And,
Did the principal let you go willingly, or?
oh yes. Oh yes. It was literally like extended family.
Hello, I'm Emily Gooderyan. I was a music teacher here in 1976 and 1977. This is the original schoolroom, school building, and I had music class in this room. And the front of the room was there. And each class would come into the room and have their music class. And right in this spot here was coat hooks for the coats from the original building. You're talking about the Christmas programs, and memorable Christmas program for me here was my first child, although it was a daughter, was born in October, and for the Christmas program we had a Christmas pageant, complete with sheep that came from the Bilter farm, and my baby daughter, who was baby Jesus.
And we even had some more recent Swallow School grads share their stories.
You mean like last year's graduates?
No, not that young, but one of them you see almost every day at Swallow School.
Hi, I'm John Seatman, and I went to Swallow School from 1975 to 1984. And all of my siblings, I have 4 siblings, and they all went to Swallow. And now I have 3 daughters who are also here at Swallow. One just graduated last year and is at Arrowhead, but we have 2 more still here. In this room, this used to be the gym, and I remember playing, what do we call it? We called it mat ball. It was kickball indoors when we'd have a rainy day, or it was bad weather outside, and we'd play kickball inside. And if you kicked it high enough, you could kick it up to the top of the wall, and you could get a home run and run around the bases. And I think Mr. Dowd was our gym teacher, and he came up with this game where you could put as many people on the bases as you'd like, and we used the gymnastics mats as bases. We had one day where we would kick the kickball, or the playground ball, out into the field to the east, which was Vilter's farm. Now it's Four Winds. We'd kick it into the cornfield, and the whole class would be out there, and they would just disappear into the cornfield, and the teachers would go crazy because one minute we'd be playing kickball on the kickball diamond, the next minute the entire group was gone, and I don't think that would work very well today. So back in 7th grade, we were out here in Mr. Bingen's gym class, and we had an archery range right here where we had the class lined up on one end, we had the targets on the other end, and one of my classmates, who was always in trouble, turned around and shot an arrow over the barn. And the next day, Tina Vilter came in, she was a classmate of mine, and said, somebody shot an arrow over the barn and it happened to go through one of our sheep. And I think the sheep lived, but it had an arrow through it for a while. And I think the guilty party paid his penance in detentions somehow.
The arrow never did actually pierce his sheep. That's just what I said, because my father was so upset that the arrows were actually going over the barn. He wanted it to stop. So I came up with that story that an arrow actually hit a sheep.
Okay, my name is Andrea Colpine. I was a student at Swallow School starting in 4th grade all the way through 8th grade. I graduated in 1993. And in 2006, I returned as a teacher, 3rd grade teacher here at Swallow School, which was a very exciting experience. Swallow is a very important part of my history and my heart. It feels like home to me. And upon returning, I did see many of my former teachers, which was a bit odd, but I did walk up to one of them, Doug Destash, and said, "Hello, Mr. Destash, do you remember me? A former student." And he said, "How could I forget the little girl that forgot her piano solo at 8th grade graduation?" Well, I was a pretty good student, I have to say, but there was one time, and we actually didn't get in trouble for this, but band lessons used to be in the 1890s room, and so we would be up there waiting for our teacher to come for lessons. And on this one occasion, for some reason, he didn't show up. I don't know if he was absent. And we thought it was a good idea. Two of my friends and I knew that you could get to the bell tower from the 1890s room. And so we did find our way climbing up into the bell tower and did inscribe our names somewhere on the wood up there. The 8th grade graduation at Swallow has always been kind of a big deal, and at that time all of the girls wore white dresses, and we would go and get our hair done at the salon, so very fancy. Anybody who played an instrument had a solo at their ceremony, so all the piano solos and other musical instruments and vocal solos. It was just a very, very fancy and special event, and I know today's 8th graders it's still a very big to-do, lots of decoration. But then after the ceremony was over, I got up and played it at the end of the ceremony, and one of the dads of a friend of mine was like, I knew she knew it. She just was playing it at my house the other night. So I did end up playing it, but not during the ceremony.
I wonder what stories we'll tell about Swallow School when we get older.